I was reminded when you were telling me about that set, there is a Bare Naked Ladies song called Box Set.
Oh yeah, yeah. I know that
Do
song.
you know that one?
Yeah.
When they go through what's
It's
on
good.
each disc?
Yeah, it's
Oh my
good.
God, it's
So
so
Bare Naked
funny.
Ladies is one of those bands. Band name aside, is one of those bands that I love and I hate.
Oh, absolutely. There's some of their stuff that is unlistenably bad.
But then there's some of do you know Grade 9?
Yeah.
I love that song. That
See,
is such a
that's
it's such a great song because it just the way he's describing everything that it's like I related to it because it was like me and my friends, you know what I mean?
see,
Um,
that would be on my no list. The when they
oh
get
really?
wacky, like the Chinese chicken, all those the
Oh, so that one I
wacky.
don't like. That yeah,
Okay.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, no. No, I liked Grade 9 because it was so much of a wink and a nod to people like us. And I'll include you in it because I imagine you were someone who in high school you weren't listening to all of the same stuff that, everybody else was. In the middle when they go into the Tom Sawyer bit, like
Oh yeah, yeah.
it's that's cool, right? And people there's a lot of people who wouldn't get that. And then at the time I'm like uh,
Oh man, I'm gonna
it's.
miss their way to
I was
heaven.
just gonna say that. I was just gonna at the end of the song or at the end of the night, and he's like, "I gotta go. Dad's here to pick me up." And oh man, we're gonna miss Stairway to Heaven because Stairway to Heaven ended every dance in high school.
On their the album after that, Born on a Pirate Ship has a couple of songs that I think are phenomenal.
Mm.
The Old Apartment, I don't know if you know that
I don't
one.
think I know that one.
Broke into my old apartment. It's really good.
Yeah,
And then maybe one of the most clever breakup songs ever is called Break Your Heart.
Hmm.
But instead of you
I
being
don't think I'm
broken
familiar with
with,
that album. Yeah.
so it's about him breaking up with somebody else. He doesn't want to, but he's kind of been too chicken to do it, but he knows he doesn't like her anymore. And then
Uh,
like the bridge section is from her perspective. She's like, "What did you think I was gonna do? Break up and die just because of you? I'm not so stupid." And like kind of gives it back to him, and he's like, "Well, I didn't want to break your heart." It kind of like deals with the aftermath of being the person doing the breaking up.
that's funny.
So it's a ballad too. It's like
Yeah.
pretty good ballad.
So we could do a deep dive on Bare Naked Ladies now if you'd
Nope.
like.
100.
I'm Bert.
I'm Ryan. Wait, what?
He was taking a sip right as I said it. And Drew and Ron aren't here right now due to scheduling snafus. So we're just going to do an impromptu mini. This is the 100 Albums podcast where we normally discuss the ins and the outs and the absurdities of a poster depicting 100 seeming random albums. But tonight we're doing something a little bit different. And yes, I said tonight, not this morning. It is evening and we're hanging out here around the holidays. And we're talking about the famous Vince Guaraldi Trio soundtrack to A Charlie Brown Christmas. Kick it off, Ryan. How do you want to?
Oh, well, I mean, I think before we even talk
What's the
about
vibe?
what's the vibe, uh, sort of sad but beautiful.
Right.
Um, before we even talk about the Christmas album, I think it's important to know where this lands for Vince because the whole thing is Vince, right? With the
Yeah. Yep.
exception of like, famous Christmas tunes on there
Right.
and
Right.
the Beethoven. But Vince had been trying for years to put out solo stuff of his own music and having
Mm.
almost no success. In fact, his big hit album before this, which I believe was Cast Your Fate to the Wind, if
Yeah.
I'm just taking off
And
the top of my head
which
here.
actually charted like on the pop charts at the time.
Yes,
Yeah.
but they were
Yeah.
they were all covers
Yeah.
of tunes. But it got him, out in the mainstream, and then come around to this. Now we actually get his own music, and I just think it's so wonderful that not only did his music end up getting celebrated, but like you associate Vince Guaraldi's sound world not only with Christmas, but Charlie Brown. You can't hear Charlie Brown without hearing his sound world.
My bourbon made me choke. I got it like went down the wrong pipe.
I thought I just really stunned you with
You
my
you
very generic commentary.
I'm verklempt.
Um,
No,
but
you're absolutely right. You cannot. It's difficult to separate the two, right? So anytime you hear um, Linus and Lucy, for example, right? That's Charlie Brown, but that's Vince as well. That's like quintessentially.
And without this Christmas episode, it wasn't. There
Right.
was
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
no animated, there was no soundtrack. So it's, synonymous with Charlie Brown because of this Christmas
yeah.
special, which I believe Legend has. Didn't they have like 3 weeks to put this together?
Oh, I don't know, but I've not dug into the actual Christmas episode.
Yeah,
One
I'm
second.
fairly sure. Well, if you're gonna look it up, we don't have to guess. We'll just
Yeah, yeah, we'll just look at
edit
it.
out this murmuring right now.
Murr, 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 murr. Yeah, I'm not seeing anything about
I guess
only. Yeah.
the DVD version I have, which is the box set with all the Charlie Brown specials, many of which are unwatchable. But they talk about having to basically rush this thing through,
Yeah.
and it's amazing to me, one, that not only did it have to happen fast to get it on TV at the whim of a TV studio, but that this is what he came up with.
Yeah.
Stuff that you can't imagine not being part of your Christmas.
Right. I want to go back to something you just said a second ago about some of the specials are unwatchable. What do you mean by that?
Oh, like so there's the Charlie Brown Halloween special,
Right. The
and
Great
then
Pumpkin.
there's a second one, and it's no good. It's not good at all. There's the Thanksgiving one, and then
Right.
there's the follow-up Thanksgiving one
Yeah.
that's unwatchable. But they're all part of the box set, so you get them.
It's a package deal.
That's right, man.
That's funny.
Well, they don't have the same charm.
Yeah.
They kind of struck gold, especially with those early ones, and found really amazing kid actors to do the
Yes. I
voices.
was just gonna say the kid
And
voices are really what as a kid growing up, I didn't realize, like, you didn't think about that, right? That
yeah,
these are actually kids in the studio who are doing, but as an adult, when you listen back to it, you're like, okay, yeah, that's definitely, a 6-year-old or something who's at the
but
microphone right now. Yeah.
it makes the lines really more sincere.
Yeah. More
You
authentic.
know,
Yeah. Absolutely.
it makes me even more annoyed at Linus. But let's talk about some of the music here, Bert.
Absolutely.
So you're looking at the track list, I'm sure.
I
What
am.
what are some of the what jumps out to you as being like, so why is it so important, this album?
Well, for me personally, track 5, Christmas Time Is Here, the instrumental. Um, there is something about it. It is. I would argue. I don't know. I don't want to like etch this in stone, but I think that it is quite possibly my favorite Christmas song, like that you hear in you know, whether it's in a store, whether it's on your Christmas playlist at home or whatever. There's something about the chords that Vince uses here. I mean, it's
Hmm.
jazz. It's jazz. It's all jazz. It's all nines. It's all 11s. Just happy. There's something so soothing and happy and home. It's so anytime it comes on, I don't tire of it. I
Hmm.
do not tire of it. Anytime I curate a holiday playlist, that's the first song I put on the playlist because I know that I'm going to start strong, right? Um, but to that point, there's lots of other songs on the soundtrack that I love. O Tannenbaum, for example, is a great song. Uh,
Which, by the way, what a call to put. He puts it in 4/4,
right. Yeah.
so it can swing.
Right.
That's
Exactly.
so hip.
But for I mean, speaking of that kind of notion of hipness, the songs like that I typically skip are any ones that have vocals in them, right?
Oh, really?
Yeah, I don't typically want to hear the vocals. I just want to hear that hip, that swing, that again those jazz kind of that it's like happy chords, as I would tell my kids. Um, that's really kind of what I go for with this album in particular. But I also, I mean, I wound up when I was probably, I don't know, in my early 30s, curating a playlist like on Pandora or something, whatever I was using at the time, around this album, so that I had like that again, kind of jazz trio, kind of Christmas vibes around this time of the year. So that if I'm at work and I'm plugging away on something, I've got like this nice kind of feeling in the background. But yeah, that's kind of how
I
I look at this album.
I will tell you, I find it really interesting that you would describe Christmas Time is Here as happy chords because
Right?
they're more for me, I could think kind of listless. I mean, there's a there's so much chromaticism and
Hmm.
a lack of like I mean it's so modal that there's not a true sort of strong home base.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, but that's
But there's something about that I think um I don't know how to describe it because you're right. They're not. It's not like it's all major sevens and like these like what would be kind of traditionally happy, kind of music theory behind everything. But for whatever reason, for me, it's happy. And maybe there are, some kind of subconscious memories and feelings around the time of the year that play into that for me, certainly.
oh yeah. And
Because
this
it
has
is,
been, I mean, that's one of my favorite tunes, and I've been playing it at the piano
yeah,
for decades,
yeah,
and I still enjoy playing it.
yeah,
I will tell you, he uses the same trickery, if you will, that sound on a lot of his stuff.
yeah.
On this album and on other albums and a lot of other Charlie Brown albums. Like the theme for Great Pumpkin
Hmm.
is has a very similar idea behind it, but we don't
Hmm.
want to get too deep in the theory here, folks. It's Christmas
Yeah.
time. So you don't like the vocals? I have to
Well,
ask.
let me qualify that. It's not that I don't like them. I just when this album comes on, I'm looking for the jazz trio, kind of the that kind of feel to it. It's not that I don't like. I mean, again, the vocal version of Christmas Time is Here. I'm getting all of the stuff that we've been talking about, plus some cute kids singing. Like it's a children's choir. Like it's so cute. So yeah, there's definitely it's still good. I just typically prefer the instrumental stuff. But what about you?
Well, I was just thinking, like, My Little Drum is one of my favorite
Hmm.
versions of Drummer Boy, and I
Hmm.
love the role that the kids' voices have in that.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
not sure. I mean, yeah, I like that element to it. And kids' voices don't normally like get me too pumped up. But uh, I one of the other things I love about this album is the level of restraint.
mm,
Here we have very accomplished jazz musicians, but they know the job, they know the gig. So
mm,
even when there's little solos, I'm sure you've listened to this enough times, just like me. You know every note of the solo because they're not
yeah,
super
yeah,
convoluted. They're all tasty notes. I don't know. They're all the right notes for some
yeah.
reason, and in the right order.
Yeah, no, yeah, you're right. It's not a Kamasi Washington jazz, kind of out there,
Yeah, well, or
you
even
know.
just a vehicle for laying down solos. The
Yeah.
songs aren't
Yeah,
really
yeah.
about that. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, because many of the songs, as you pointed out earlier, they're not. I mean, there's some original work in there, but a lot of it is kind of traditional, "O Christmas Tree," right? It's not a Vince Guaraldi song. It's kind of a traditional carol or whatever that they're putting their spin on, but they're not going to take an 8 minute, ride on a Christmas tree.
Yeah. You know, Linus and Lucy is
Yeah.
interesting because where that sort of solo section happens is a completely different groove.
Hmm.
And I actually get a little tired of hearing the bass line and theme of just because it's been played so
Yeah.
much
Yeah.
and
Yeah. Well,
growing
and
up.
like every third grade piano student learns that. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. But like that B section is
Yeah. Hmm.
pretty hip, man.
Yeah. Yeah. So as I'm looking at the track listing here, I'm noticing the Beethoven Furelese, right?
Hmm.
What are your thoughts on? I mean, I understand why it's on the album because it's one scene where Schroeder is kind of noodling on the piano and that kind of thing. But why did it make the Christmas album cut? I guess is my question.
That's a great question. I wish it hadn't.
It's the
Not
it's the one song you would cut, right?
Yeah, on our normal podcast, we would say, what would you remove to make it a better album? And it's for multiple reasons. One, like you mentioned, other than it being featured in the background, so they clearly recorded it and like, well, we have the material, we'll put it on
Right.
the album. But like, I'm not even. I feel like I'm defending Beethoven, and people that know me realize I don't really.
That's saying something.
Yeah, I don't get off on Beethoven, but uh, the Fury Elise. is a much longer piece with some really interesting sections that happen
Mm.
that are not included on this recording. It just does that one part that, again, every third grader that's ever sat at a piano figures out how to play
Yeah.
and drives you insane.
Yep.
Um, I really wish it wasn't on the album. Thankfully they only do it for a minute or a minute
Hmm.
and 2 seconds.
Yeah.
But when I had the CD version, I always skipped that track.
Yeah. 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 Same. It's interesting because it's always seemed to like the the song that's out of place. Like it doesn't. Which of these things is not like the other, right? And
Yeah.
and and for me, that song. And not that I have anything, I probably don't feel as strongly as you about being, I won't say anti-Beethoven, but not preferring Beethoven, right? I do like the song Fear Elise, and you're right, it is much more substantial than a minute and 2 seconds or whatever, but it just seems like it sticks out. The rest of the album doesn't
Yeah,
have
it's just
it's not the same style. It's not a Christmas song, it's really not, it doesn't belong. So,
it's to me, this is probably just from a career too long as a composer, but I feel like it's disrespectful to not play the whole piece because
yeah.
you're not getting the whole idea. Like
Mm,
that'd be like if they put Hark the Herald Angels in there, right? So if they just did that,
yep.
but they're like stopped it, halfway through the first verse without even, or something. I don't like.
Yeah.
They're like, oh well, that's that song. You guys know it, right? Nana Nana or something. I don't know. I'm stretching perhaps a little bit, but
Yeah.
it reminds me of when I was in undergrad. No, I guess it was while I was working on my master's, and I did my trumpet jury, and I started playing, and I had a pianist with me, and they stopped me at one point, and it wasn't done, and I'm like, well, how do you know? I know how the, like, I haven't even
The
expressed
jury stuff. Okay, yeah, that's interesting.
I haven't even expressed the entire idea that the composer has asked us to do. And you're going to tell me to stop? No, I'm
Wow.
going to keep playing.
Why did they just feel like, okay, we've heard enough, you can move on,
Yeah,
or
you're
like,
fine. Yeah, it sounds good. You're good. They're trying to be probably polite, like, it's jury time, you're tired. And I took it very personally. And not about my playing, but on
right.
behalf of the composer. I thought it was
Yeah.
rude. Anyway,
Interesting.
tangent. What child is this? How do you feel about that song?
I don't mind it. I feel like is it that one? And there are two songs that sound very similar.
Well, that's because they are, well, Greensleeves is the other.
Greensleeves.
They're the
Greensleeves.
same melody.
Yeah.
I guess that was my other question. You asked, why is Fear Elise on here?
Yeah.
Why are both of those on here?
Yes, I have thought that in the past and wondered that question. I don't have any problem with either of them, for the record. I think they're both, beautiful songs. I think it's an interesting choice on the part of the production or whoever was making those kinds of decisions. But I do like the kind of the renditions that Vince and company provided because they're again that's the kind of the vibe of the album for me is that jazz trio, and you're just kind of jamming out yeah. How about you?
Yeah, I would have said pick one, but
Yeah.
but again, I know the
Pick one and do it
reality.
twice as long. Just pull it, stretch it out a little bit more, and you'll be good.
Well, I mean, the reality of it is they laid down the tracks. Like I have a lot of jazz records, and then they do the reissues. They're always like, here's the alternate take of
Yeah.
that. So they had these are some of these might just be the alternate take, and they're like,
Right.
well, if we're gonna sell this thing, we gotta fill it up, guys.
Well, yeah, because now that you mentioned that, I'm looking at the original 1965 release, side one and side two. But then there was a 2022 deluxe edition that was released, and this is holy shit. 4 CDs and a Blu-ray audio disc. But so CD number one has 22 tracks on it. Okay. There are 4 versions of Christmas Time is Here. Ready for this? CD two, Christmas is Coming. There are 6 versions of it. No, sorry, 10 versions of it. Christmas is Coming number one, take one. Christmas is Coming number one, take two. Take three, takes four and five, take six, takes. So yeah, you're absolutely right. What you're just talking about is right here in this, I
Yeah.
guess, 2022 reissue, deluxe edition, whatever it is. Yeah,
Christmas is Coming, by the way, is really fun to play.
yeah.
I don't know if you noticed, it has the same descending chromatic root line as Christmas Time is Here.
I don't think I've ever
So
noticed that
yeah, you
before.
have do 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 do, and then you have this boo do
Doo
do
doo.
do
Yeah, yeah.
do do do, right? And the same with Christmas is Coming. Do 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 bum bum bum, but the boo do 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 bum bum bum, do 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 boo 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 boo
Get
do 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 do
out.
do.
Okay. I'll have to pay closer attention next time.
It becomes really obvious when you're reading the chart.
Oh, sure. Yeah, yeah. I would imagine so.
Uh, but if we do end up airing this, everyone will really enjoy those vocal versions.
That's what I was just gonna
It's gonna
say.
take you right into what
But
made
here's
you
no,
love this.
and that brings me to a topic that is becoming increasingly apparent to me. I've had several folks who I work with, folks in my community, whatever, who have been listening to the podcast and enjoying it, and lots of great things to say, and appreciate all the positive feedback, and that's great. But in every single conversation, without fail, someone will say, "It'd be great if you could play pieces of the songs."
Yeah, it would be.
And I say, "Yeah, well, are you a lawyer?
Yeah. Or
Can
or do
you
you want to give us
can
the
you
money to buy the
exactly?
rhyme booklets?
Can you give us the money for the licensing?" So anyway, yeah, until that day, until that time,
You get to hear
you'll-
my
we get
awesome
to hear exactly.
acapella.
You get to hear a cappella renditions of, Christmas Time is Here or whatever.
Yeah, Bert, let me hear you do a skating.
Oh, I don't think you want to hear that. I can't even. Skating is that's the yeah, yeah,
Yeah. Oh man, this is turning out to be a really
It's
good episode.
off the rails. It's fantastic.
That's where we are. Well,
Eh,
folks, I know you've heard this one. I will say, by the way, you talk about the nostalgia element and how important this is to us as, you know, it's still important. This is the first holiday show my daughter wanted to watch. I remember
Oh,
having the VHS from taping it off of TV, and it was one of the only VHSs I had in my dorm room.
wow.
Like this is a special thing that they kind
Yeah,
of struck gold with.
yeah. Oh,
And I
absolutely.
think the music is the major part of it,
Yeah.
honestly.
Honestly, I was just gonna say that, Ryan. I think that the reason that it has endured so much is not because of Linus reciting the biblical story of the birth of Jesus. It's not because of the little, piddly Christmas tree. It's not because of the very on the nose Christmas is becoming too commercial message of the episode, right? It's because
Yeah.
of the music. I truly believe the music is what, and that's a credit to Vince and his spin on things, or the way that he kind of arranged everything, and I think personified Linus in some, or not Linus, yeah, Linus in some ways, right? No, Schroeder, Schroeder, Schroeder,
Schroeder.
Schroeder was the piano player.
When of that original trio, I think only Jerry Granell's the alive. Is that right? At
Oh,
the
I don't
time of
know.
this recording, I think only
I
the drummer is still kicking. But
Wow, I didn't know that. I mean, I knew that Vince had passed.
he passed very early.
Yeah, yeah, a long time ago.
But yeah.
Huh.
Well, that's perfect. I'm glad I started talking about death right at the end of this because
Way to bring
that's
it home.
yeah.
That's how yeah, yeah, yeah. But no, it has endured. You're absolutely right. This is one of those albums, I think, that kids pass on to their kids and onto their kids as time goes on. So
Yeah, like a
and
rash.
and with any luck, we'll get another reissue in 15 years, and it'll have 18 alternate takes of Christmas Time is Here.
All right, folks.
All
Well,
right,
you got
gang.
better things to do this time of year than listen to these two schmoes. Y'all have a good one, and we will talk to you. Well, it'll be us doing the talking
We'll talk
on
at you
Tuesday.
later.
Bye.
Thanks, everyone. See you next time.